Okay, today I am looking at a Diamond 1 Winston voter quest. We got YD submitting on Eichenwald. Not sure if you remember you reviewed my vote request I submitted in Overwatch University about a month or two ago. Since then I've climbed from Diamond 2 to Diamond 1, so a little bit of progress, that's good. We take what we can get. This game I had trouble on attack breaking through second point Eichenwald. Okay, we'll take a look at second point for sure then. Also, I should mention I made a really stupid mistake. That's all good. Silly mistake from being tired at the moment. Yeah, well, just consider how much you're playing. Make sure you're not just bashing your head into a wall. You know, be smart about planning out your playtime. Whether it's because we don't want it to be sparingly long chunks. Like you want consistent quality sessions. When you log on, you want to be going through your warm-up routine. I know that's a little bit less for tanks. It's probably more about game sense, so going into quick play games rather than try hard FFAs, and making sure we're getting ourselves switched on, go into our games with something specific to practice, and then evaluating after a few games. I think around depending on what your goals are, I think around at least an hour to an hour and a half a day is a good thing to aim for. That gives you about 3 matches minimum. I find a good way to a good thing to aim towards, is 5 matches a day. But obviously that can vary depending on the length of the matches. You can get a million escort maps and then they go to overtime and it takes forever. But yeah, so just be careful about that. Be careful about not knowing when to stop. If this was like one of the last games of the night, then maybe you don't do that extra game next time. I'm not there to give you an exact yes or no answer on that, but just be careful of it. Overall, I think I played decent, but there were definitely times I feel I made the wrong decision. Also, I forgot to mention, I feel like I got Primal forced out really early in some fights because of me playing over-aggressive. I need help in finding the right moment to Primal during fights. I'm guessing it is when the enemy is rotating. Primal can be a good tool to disrupt teams on their rotations if it is part of the team's win condition to stay together and to not be displaced by Primal. Otherwise, for the most part, it's a selfish ult that you are going to use to allow yourself to play more aggressively. So this over-aggressiveness is not necessarily a bad thing. When you have Primal, you have a sort of get-out-of-jail-free card, and that can allow you to go really hard and to even cut LOS of your supports for a little bit to be able to go deeper. There's not much else to really say about it. But we'll look through. We'll look for primals. We'll look for second point attack, and we'll just go over Monkey in general. I like the starting position. This is decent. We can just walk off and drop our bubble and save jump to get out. Anytime you can start on a high ground, so you don't have to. Anytime you can engage on the back line without having to use jump is really good Winston positioning. But I don't like this. We don't peel for the ball. We don't peel for our team by shooting the ball. We peel by doing that, but earlier. So maybe the Mercy doesn't come peel for him, and they don't get through the choke in general. Just looking, we're still down a DPS, so we're not going to have a lot of follow-up on the kills that we get. So at the moment, we're just trying to live like you're doing. We do have quite a large amount of support in terms of healing output through Lifeweaver after his buffs and Moira in general, especially if there is one person down, then it's one less person for them to heal. But hopefully the Lifeweaver will allow our Moira to play a bit aggressively. Gonna walk up on them. I like this. I would have liked to have seen you hit the other side of this, this wreckage, like play on this corner more. Just because it's going to give you a little bit more access to the back line and a little bit more natural cover when you are walking on them. How did we get antied there? She just walked into the bubble. A little bit of practice on peeking bubble. This bubble in general could have been a little bit closer to this wall, like somewhere like here. Just because it's an effective tool at zoning out large areas when you need it to. And part of that is blocking off chokes to cut LOS between the supports and whoever you're diving. If you're diving the backline, then a lot of the time you want to be able to still utilize cover and be able to almost make this the bubble the amount of surface area that you need. And what I mean by that is if you can afford to make the surface area of the bubble smaller, that's going to make it easier to jiggle peek in between and to dodge and kite these important cooldowns like Sleep Dart, like Helix, like Anti, etc. So think about what the dive is sort of demanding you to do, and what sort of purpose the bubble is going to be used for. Because in general, Winston at a fundamental level is 1, closing the gap to your target without having to use jump, ideally by just being able to walk. 2 is when we're in here, we want to have good natural cover plus good bubble usage. Because we have a lot of kill potential as Winston, and we can absorb a lot of pressure when we have bubble. And when we don't is when we need to rely on things like that, plus our armor threshold. Apologies for my writing, my hand's a little shaky today. Our armor threshold is going to allow us to have an increased uptime in terms of our power spikes. So here, because it's not about extending, how do I say this? It's not about extending how long these peaks last for or how many of them you can have. You just need to make them quality. So it's about getting the higher peaks. And that is a bit skinny. Like obviously you would want to make it longer than that, but you get my point. Hopefully. This is good. We're just kiting. Our Torb is finally joining the game. And we're 4v4 now because we got that pick. This is good. Careful of the Ana. She's still behind you. We're not using charge shot a lot. A couple of times we haven't needed to because we've been walking on them, but it's still a good opportunity when you are closing the gap towards your target to have one loaded up. The combo, of course, being a charge shot while landing directly on your target to maximize that damage impact, and then a melee. The melee doesn't exactly increase your DPS, but it does conserve ammo so you can tase for longer after it. So it's sort of substituting a little bit of the taser damage so that you can conserve some ammo. This is good. We need to... No, okay. That's what I was worried about. Okay, we don't currently have... that's not what I wanted to do. We don't currently have bubble. So we're not in a position to go in right now. So this is good to have dove this high ground. I like it. It's going to force them to look at you. It's going to force attention and cooldowns. But this might be where this is playing over aggressive and getting your primal forced out, because the primal is still, it's not a reason to go feed. It's a way to extend, if we draw this graph up again, it's a way to extend when you get to this point to then have another instant thing, and also to have an escape route because jump goes down to 2 seconds. Right, so it can't, you don't want to be losing like this part of the dive and like closing the gap and then primaling the second we're in here, because that's going to make it like, if we draw that up, it's going to make it like that, and your finish time is still going to be around the same here, and you'll probably get forced out and feed a bunch of ult charge. So really necessary that we're never engaging without bubble, unless they force our hand to do so. So you have to contest point, you have to shut down an ultimate, you have to primal, you know, a specific target to remove them from the fight. Then obviously it can get forced out. But if it's not one of those reasons, if it's not being required of you, then it should still be used as a method to extend our aggressiveness on a standard dive. And the point is that Especially now they've swapped to Reaper from Genji. They're just trying to counter you, obviously. He's had enough of getting tasered through his deflect. You're going to get chunked right now. You're absolutely going to get chunked. And I'm going to bet that we are not even in LOS of our supports. Well, the Moira's in LOS, but she is not focused on you. She throws a damage orb in as well, so she can't even support you as you go in. Yeah, and our Life Weaver's in Narnia. So this is like a really dangerous dive. Really dangerous dive. And that is getting forced out. So that is the difference between using Primal to be aggressive and being over-aggressive in the moment and having it forced out. That is the key difference there. Is that you weren't extending a dive, you just went in and then you had to use it to bail yourself out, rather than using it as a tool to extend your uptime or extend your aggressiveness. Because see, like, now you've done the damage, she's going to burn some cooldowns here, potentially. Or you could have just, if you had Primal there, you'd probably just finish her off, right? So those are key moments to look out for. But we'll go back and watch your POV for the last couple seconds. He's scared of you feeding, so he life grips you away. This is a good dive on an isolated target. Careful of the res. Is she going to res that? Yeah, she does. Make sure you protect res when you see Mercy. Make sure you just linger for a second. Just discourage her from going for it. And I think this is just a flow-on effect, right? Because we've primaled and we got forced out, they were able to take all this space and walk in our backline to like get through this choke and find angles. Good kill on the soldier if we had stayed and protected the Mercy and then maybe played more onto here. Because yes, Reaper is a counter, but he's also slower than you. So if you can play your angles and play your distance correctly, you can just avoid him and focus on these other people. You'll find a lot of value that way. So what could have been a better option is when you killed this soldier. I'll rotate the map here, but when you killed this soldier, if we even take it back a bit. Is it here? Yeah. So the Reaper's not even looking at you here. It would have been really good to have sit on this corner, just mark the res for a bit, throw some tase shots on him or him, some charge shots. If the Mercy comes to res, you can even like, if you want to like bait her into it, you can sit here. If you wanted to play more aggressively, sit here and do the same charge shots on the point. And just deny this res opportunity, because I guarantee then she's not going to GA across you to come help the Reaper. She's never going to come pocket the ball. So she's just going to sit with her supports. And that gives you an opportunity to isolate both supports and allow your team to fight a 4v2 on point. As opposed to what's going to happen, which is we're going to take the time to walk over to here. We're going to force a 1v1 here, burning both our cooldowns to not get a kill. She's going to get the res, and then it's going to be a 4v4 on the point. So that's the difference, basically. So really keep an eye out, and that's probably just a game sense thing in terms of coming up against Mercy. But be really careful not to... be really careful to look for opportunities to deny res. Purely by existing. You just have to sit there. She's not going to try and res in front of you. And the nade healing's too much. Oh, that is unfortunate. How did the mines get up there? Was there a pedal? Oh, that's unfortunate. Wow. That is unlucky. Yeah.
The moon base wasn't built in a day.
Just have my volume even a little bit further down because I don't necessarily need it to be that high. This is good. Now we got some charge shots going out. Just be careful not to ever be trading damage that isn't favorable for you. So if this soldier isn't looking at you, tase away. If he starts shooting at you, just back away, because you're giving out more to him and demanding resources from your supports compared to what you're getting out of it. That was a nice dive. Just be careful about going aggressive right now. This is good. Guard in the res. I like this. He's going to get it off just because you didn't have any follow-up from your DPS. But the premise is still there. And while she went for it, she didn't have support. She couldn't do anything else, and she couldn't support her Ana, who was getting forced out by your Torb. So there's some indirect value. Reaper's underneath you. Just note it. Go on the back line. Isolate the soldier with your bubble. Really good. Really good, really good. Now this Orisa is also going to make your life a little bit more difficult, but she should be playing still with the Reaper. So if you look for when they go to engage as a trigger for you to go and isolate the backline, or even isolate them from their backline, then you're going to find some value. Again, you don't have a lot of follow-up with Torb Soldier, unless the Soldier's going to find his own angle, which we can't rely on. He could just be spamming from main as this entire match. So there's going to be less, if there's less follow-up, there's going to be less kill potential, but you can focus on living and just absorbing a lot of pressure and absorbing and occupying a lot of space. Reaper's going to walk on you. Would have liked to have seen you jump here in case this Reaper chases. He's not going to though, he's just going to stay high and break turret. That could have been an opportunity to Primal just then. To deny this res. I think that's a decent use of Primal. The fight may already be won though. So it may not be super necessary. We're going to invest Coalescence anyway. Soldier's going to die to just Torb spam. We're never going to kill Orisa, it's just chill, nice. There is no, I'll give you a hint, there is no world in which you're going to ever kill this Orisa as Winston. You just don't do enough damage. Now I would like to see a Primal come out. You're down both supports. You're not going to have a lot of HP. This is good. Reaper got nanoed, so we just get out. But that Primal probably forced nano. I don't know which came first, but they were pretty much in the same moment if it wasn't in response. Careful diving on a Reaper without your supports up. Morio's back now. Need to help her. Take some heat off her. Again, not trying to kill the Orisa, but she's walking on your team right now. Like, you can at least absorb some pressure if you've got your supports back. I know I said you don't peel by going for the tank, but that was more to do with counter diving, their dive tank. If the Orisa is just like straight up walking on your team and like we weren't really doing anything else, then sure, we can take some pressure off our team. Because in that sense, you do have follow-up right next to you. So if you can bubble her off from her supports, see if I can get a time here. She's walking on your Orisa right now. I know we don't have bubble, but we do have jump, so we can just go down for a second. Actually, how close are you to bubble? Yeah, 2 seconds. So if you, maybe a second ago, had I looked for an opportunity to maybe sit here and bubble off here, and then just taser, and once someone comes, then you just jump out. You just jump straight back to up here. But at the moment, we're not providing any value to our team because this space, although good for us to retreat to, they don't want. They're not interested in it. The soldier could be with the Mercy, but he hasn't really this whole match. The Reaper's used it to telly sometimes, but we're avoiding the Reaper anyway if he wants to TP up here. That's essentially forcing us out because we don't have LOS to our supports. We're not holding this space for anyone on our team either because they're all playing in main. So you could even be sitting here, right? Or here. And if they walk around, then you tase shot them. Otherwise, you get a free drop down onto their team and you get to bubble. And you do it from a position where they don't have direct LOS on you. So think about what spaces you're occupying even in your downtime. Because although this is a good position for you to recover and to get your resources back, you were essentially letting the Orisa walk on your team right now, and she could kill the Moira too. Although I think the Moira gets out. This is a little bit as well, a little bit of a useless dive. I think what the situation deserves, demands, I guess, is not going too aggressive, but perhaps turning around and actually looking where your team is, because I don't see you doing that a lot in this game right now. You're looking at what's in front of you, which is good, but make sure we understand where our team's playing, because I think the Moira is about to get pressured out by someone. Yeah, the soldier's on her right now. Yeah, she dies. So just be careful, because we're not even stalling point. The bubble's a bit misplaced. You don't get close enough to damage. It's just all around not a great engage. And now we have to kite further than perhaps we would have if we had just chilled for a sec. Oh yeah. Nice. Nice. Both nice dodges. I like this engage. Another nade blocked. This is good. Reaper's here, gonna force us out. A little bit of execution on that jump just then. We clipped the wall and stopped ourselves from getting all the way out. We need to kite now. I didn't hear the soldier visor go off. When is he ult? I would potentially bubble him here. He's in and he's really low and he needs support. I think the second you get bubble, I would be looking for him if you hear him ult. Focus him, because he's going real hard. He's going to get killed, I think, at this rate. No, he gets saved. Does he get life gripped out, maybe? Yeah, he does. He gets life gripped out. So, yeah, maybe look to support him more. A little bit of just situational awareness in terms of understanding where your team is, it looks like. We're trying to do a lot on our own, which I get. We don't have, like, dive DPS with us, like a Tracer, Genji, Sombra Echo, stuff like that. But there's still people we can be supporting and enabling. So this looks pretty ugly right now. Do we have to go on these guys, though? Or do we have to give up all this space? I know we don't have supports, but Reaper can't exactly trade damage with us from range if we want to poke him out with charge shots. We can force him to play onto us, put him from point. Or we can look to go aggressive on the back line. We almost have primal, right? So if we get a nice cleave on this back line as they're walking out, like right here, like if we were here now, and we can occupy this, what does it create on the map? 1v3 plus U of ult, and then 2v4. Favorable. And the 2 is the 2 people. The 2 is the 2 characters on their team designed to mess you up. Whereas these are favorable matchups. They're all individually favorable 1v1s. And you can jump in, you can get slept and probably live through whatever damage they do before you can pop primal. Depending on when you get slept, obviously. But I think right now you're going to get tunneled into diving somewhere over here and not having anywhere to LOS, but we'll see what happens. And I don't want to spend too much longer on the defense because I want to get to the attack. We get tree. This is where you jump into the assault. Oh, unlucky. But this is what I mean, right? Like, this wasn't a great dive location. Or, like, you were able to cut LOS of the Orisa, but the Orisa's not really in a position to die. I mean, she is, but her ult is sort of demanding that everyone's just running away for now. Yeah. I think your Moira sort of carries this, like she's taking a lot of attention. And the main takeaway here is what I was worried about, which is because we defaulted to kiting back to here and then diving onto point because it was getting close, we missed opportunities like this. And like this is exactly what I'm talking about. Like looking about where your team is playing, I think is going to be a big part in getting you up to Masters, because we could be enabling our Moira right now. Like she's actually giving us some follow up on our dives. And then from here, you get opportunities to protect the res or just to be able to drop on the Ana, because you don't even need to use bubble here, right? Like this is a free dive to not even use bubble. You can tank a Helix because you got a support with you and there's a mini here. And then you get to drop with bubble still, bubble off the support to target her and dodge cooldowns. Maybe more on this corner or something, but it's a bit dodge of getting javelined or getting windmilled off the map. Yeah, I don't know. That's what I got to say after that. I think you're missing these opportunities by just looking at where your team is and defaulting to doing what you think you have to do, rather than just taking a second to think, all right, that's a Reaper and Orisa. This is a no-go for me. Like, I probably won't even be able to build my primal before they can chunk me. How are we doing for time? We're at 26 minutes. I might... How do you go? You end up holding there. We can take a look at it, I guess. Oh, this is the fast fight. Okay. Okay, where are we setting up? We're on the high. Oops. We dive on the Reaper. Again, I'm not a fan of this because he's just going to force us out really quickly like he does. Counter diving a tank. This is again the difference between shooting tank, not shooting tank. This was counter diving and giving up all this space and not even isolating her, whereas before it was to contest the space that she was contesting because it was still frontlining. Whereas you are giving up your front line to go and peel for this Orisa, if that makes sense. Just wanted to clarify. Not that you're ever going to kill her, but it's that there wasn't really anything else you could be doing, and the space that she was taking was important to your team. And you couldn't really deny it any other way. Let's get primal off the map. And they see 9. Alright, cool. Might just speed through this point A attack a little bit. See, that's a good bubble. I want to say it's good bubble placement. That's what I was referring to earlier with this corner. But is there a reason that we're sitting here? Who are we zapping? Reaper again. We've been able to stop taking Reaper damage and to get healed up a bit. I would argue that you just ignore them. You just walk around a point. I don't think we need to contest this space for our team. We're not bubbling our team to let them walk through the choke. We're taking attention right now. That's as much as we can do. But I think you can do more by just rotating around here and pressuring point and zapping them with charge shots. I think that takes more attention onto you. And again, is playing around the Reaper better, not playing into him. He actually stole Reaper off his mate. Now we're walking into Reaper again. We get life gripped away, which is lucky. Go take space. Go take space. Go dive the high ground on this building right now. I think that's what you need to do. You need to force them. So this is going to be a compositional difference. Is that their comp is going to function in a way that Mercy is going to constantly be sitting on the Kree. Unless you dive in, she might damage boost the Reaper. Orisa's trying to frontline. Kiriko is going to help her hold that frontline. Or Kiriko is going to pair with the other DPS to what the Mercy isn't. This is theoretical. I'm not saying they're going to do this because they could be bad players. They could not understand this. Most likely they won't. But in theory, that's what happens. And essentially, what they will do is they're going to play together. And they're going to hold a front line with their Orisa. The Orisa's going to establish a front line. They're going to sit on her. And Cass may look for off angles relative to that. But they're going to play around their Orisa a lot. So anytime that you can get behind them and force at least like either Reaper TPs up to you or Cass turns to shoot at you, Kiriko has to move away from you. These are opportunities that are going to enable your team to find kills and to find value, especially when you have a sniper. If you're forcing this Kiriko to play in less ideal situations, I guarantee you a Hanzo can find a head somewhere in this fight. And I think this will translate into point 2 as well. And that can be any number of things. That can be walking through here. That can be diving up to here. That can be diving up to here. It can be walking through here, but then again, this is a choke that we don't really want to play into an Orisa Reaper in. So I think ideally the 2 high grounds, best places for you to dive right now. And to split focus, split attention, split resources. Because at the moment they're just piling it into their DPS to play off angles, their Reaper to deny you, and their Orisa to establish a front line. This is good. Moira's going to come in and support us. Lifeweaver's going to take us out for some reason. It's unfortunate. Again, don't counter dive, especially not to a Reaper. Reaper wants to push you out. He's successful. Now just, we're taking a crazy amount of poke right now. Crazy amount of poke in this period. Because just watch your HP bar. It just does not ever get above this armor threshold after this Reaper forces you out. Right now, below it, still peeking, still getting shot. Like the Lifeweaver is doing nothing but healing. We get up there, and then we just start to walk in again. This is good, but then we're like, oh, I went back too far. Like we get life gripped away. We're on our threshold. We're underneath it. We don't get above it, and we get up to it, we peek again. Reaper's going to force us out. We're below it. We're still peeking, we're below it. We're still peeking, we're below it. We're really low, we get our bubble forced. So just be careful and just, when you're down, when you don't have cooldowns, when you're not in a position to dive, if you're not scouting to dive, just chill. Just chill. Look for the rotations like you did before where you rotated through here and then went on to point, right? That created a lot of space. And right now we want to be going in with our tree, but we don't have bubble, so it's going to limit how aggressive we can play. Yeah, focus the C. Yeah, nice. You see the Mercy leave him? Don't chase the Mercy, she's too elusive. Unless the DPS is equally elusive, then just focus on him. Get up to the high ground. Nice. Great position. Great position. Moira gets to walk in with Coalescence. Careful to deny the res. If this Reaper gets res, that's a bad thing. That is a bad thing. It's good we deny high noon. The Reaper gets a kill on a soldier, sorry. Forced out a GA, her swift step. Keep looking for the carry, this is good. Carry's important to force out. It's going to cut off a lot of the Orisa's support. And it's going to force the Mercy to do healing more than damage boosting. But you see the space that you created by diving this high ground and taking this space? And it also eliminated this space as somewhere for the Cass to potentially play, but mainly the Kiriko. She kited up to here and then she had to drop again anyway because we pressured her out again. So that's the indirect value, is you occupy this, you split attention 2 ways, because the Orisa stayed on the front line, you had the Mercy Cass on point, the Mercy had to leave, you killed the Cass, right, good. Then you killed the Reaper, didn't deny the res, oh that was a fight before, but then in this fight, didn't deny the res, that's probably the only mistake in this fight, because your soldier probably cleans up this fight a lot quicker if he doesn't get forced into a 1v1. Now this is a bad dive, this is playing into their comp again. We don't need to be going into chokes. We need to be sitting here, occupying this space, and bubbling if they try and push out. We do not want to go in. This is a bad place for us to be. We're searching. Again, we're just taking a little bit too much spam when we're trying to do this. Like we're sitting below this armor threshold as we're looking at a Reaper. You're demanding a lot of resources from your team when you're not even diving. Again, I'm going to say, when you're not sure what to do, just get behind them, especially if they're playing like this brawl sort of comp. Dive up to here. You can walk out here if it helps to get an angle on it. Or you can dive over the top here and sit here. Like, who's going to contest you? Reaper is going to TP. That's about it. You can bubble to buy time until you have jump, and you can jump straight back if he forces you out, or you can jump up here. He's already used tele. He can't chase you twice. So look for that. Because we're trying to frontline right now, and we just don't have the same frontline pressure as Winston. We even have a Tracer now, so we've got some follow-up on our dives. I'll spec you for this. Engage. We see Sojourn a little weak. Dive. We land on this platform. This is good. We engage on her. We bubble now. This is good. The bubble could have been a slight second earlier, just to make sure that your Tracer didn't get one-tapped by a Sojourn. Oh, that was almost really good. But yeah, bit baited into trying to go for the Mercy. If she wants to res in front of you, then there's not much you can do about that. The Tracer should have been alive to follow up with you. We're gonna die. That's all good. I think you didn't need to deny the res in that scenario because you'd already made the space. I think it was important to live there, but your deep's sort of fed, so they'd pretty much already gotten an advantage in the fight. Same thing though. It's a suicide dive. Again, this is getting forced, right? Because this just wasn't a good dive. Primal is about extending the good dives. It's not a reason to just go in and waste abilities. So do a stage, take this high ground, sit up here, be able to drop, be able to bubble important people. When the bubble breaks, or you have to go deeper, then you primal. You extend it. All the while you're doing this, you're probably again forcing like a 4v1/2 with, pardon me, Orisa on point. The other part of this is that when you dive into the middle of their team, you're taking all the attention, and that is just going to shorten your primal duration by like half, if not more. Another dive into no man's land, sort of on the front line. Next one should have been up here, maybe up here. Just be threatening. Be threatening in your downtime, right? Like, we're waiting for cooldowns at this point, I think. I don't think we have bubble. Do we have bubble? Like, we're forced out. Don't drop back down. Sit up where you were, get some health back up. Then next dive over to the high ground. You get to drop with bubble and then dive to get out. We're relying on jump a bit too much to engage rather than staging a jump before and then being able to drop on them and jump to get out. This seems to be a key trend. And it's especially key, or it's especially notable when you have primal, and that's why it does feel like it's getting forced out for being over-aggressive. Because we're rushing our engages when we have primal, thinking we don't need to do the normal staging and normal space taking. Nice, good kill. Oh, that's unfortunate. Oof. Jeez. Yeah, I think we just cooked ourselves a little in how much time we had left. Unlucky with this dive. I think maybe you're in a better position to do something about this team fight if you don't mess that up, but that is what it is. I actually got the mercy off the map. Yeah, unlucky. So I think you stored ourselves out by just wasting. We just didn't have enough time. Like, bridge is a hard place to dive as Winston, so we needed to have more time on the clock when we got to there. But yeah, those are the main points, I think. We talked about Primal a little bit. We talked about different bubble usage and sort of bubble placement. And my handwriting is shocking, so I'm just not even going to bother. Bubble placement, bubble usage in terms of what are you trying to do? Are you trying to isolate the tank from its supports? Are you trying to dive isolated DPS already or isolated supports and use the shield more as an ability to dodge cooldowns? Because then you're trying to limit the surface area to make it easier to kite in and out of the bubble, right? Still playing around natural cover anytime, because that can improve the timing of the bubble. And then as well as I think just utilizing charge shot more, taking a bit more time to stage your dives. Specifically on attack, we talked about flipping the map and sort of occupying space and recognizing the team differences. I will say that was because of what I was saying about them establishing a front line with Orisa Reaper. If they were playing something like a monkey, this is still an important thing to do, because you're going to either force him to use cooldowns to cut LOS from you to the rest of your team, or he's going to counter dive you. Either way, you're still creating a bit of space, especially if you have DPS to follow up on the space you've created. So yeah, those are the key points to take away. I hope this helps. If anything doesn't make sense, then just shoot me a message, and all the best with your games.